Welcome and welcome back to another video. Hi, my name is Colette. In this video, we are going to be doing my May reading wrap up. So if you're interested in the books that I've read, what I thought about them, go ahead and stick around. Alright, you guys, thank you so much for sticking around. So don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever I release a new video. And as always, let's go ahead and jump into my stats. I get my stats from Storygraph. Again, Storygraph is a book tracking app. I personally like it for my nerdiness. It has all of the information that I want, so I can see the amount of pages I've read, the amount of hours I listen to. If I listen to audiobooks, if I've reread a book, it tracks that. It shows me what other people are reading. But more specifically, this is really a tracker for you. Yes, you can engage with other people on there and you can have your friends and see what they're reading, but it's really for you. So I like it for that. If you need a more social aspect, then you might want to try something else. But for me, this is what works best. So again, let's go ahead and jump into my stats. So in the month of May, I read a total of 14 books, which is 4,053 pages, and listened to a total of 14.93 hours. It took me an average of 2 days to finish a book. Now, I do want to point out some of these books that I read this month are actually rereads. So really, I read about like 10, 11. I'm not sure. I think it's like 11. The pace of my books, 8% of it were slow, 38% was fast, and 54% were medium-paced books. 8% of my books were over 500 pages. 42% of my books were between 300 and 499 pages, and 50% of my books were below 300 pages. My audio book length, one book was between 8 hours and 15 hours and 59 minutes, and then the other book was less than 8 hours, all fiction, because, you know, I like fiction. My number one genre is romance. You know it. Followed by contemporary and then erotica, which we're going to touch on that. My formats for the month of May, 29% print. I'm so proud of myself. That's me reading my physical books. I'm working through them, y'all. Progress. 14% audio and 57% digital, all in English. And my average star rating was 3.84 stars. I don't know how accurate that is because it does total in or factor in my rereads, so I'd never change the star rating of my rereads. I just reread them and keep it as is. So there's that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into my books that I've read this month. I got a reading journal because I had to write down my thoughts so I can keep them organized. It's chaotic in my mind. So, reading journal. We're going to jump into this so we can get into the books. All right, so the first book I read was titled Her Saint by Harmony West. This is a dark romance, a total of 190 pages. I gave this book 2 stars. Now, in this book, in this reading journal, it has prompts. It asks, would you recommend? I just want to set a disclaimer so that we understand what I mean when I say would I recommend for you to read or not to read. If I say no, this is not because the book is horrible and egregious and I just think it's trash and you should throw it away and it should be burned and no one should ever read from this author ever. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if I say no, I wouldn't recommend this book, it's because if someone were to ask me for a recommendation for a dark romance or whatever genre and they want to ask me what I think, this is not a book that would come to mind. So again, this book I would not recommend. Not a bad book. I'm going to tell you about it, tell you how I felt about it. Obviously, it's up to you. Reading is subjective. You may like it. It just wasn't for me. So, the summary of the book basically is that Briar is being stopped by her student, Saint DeHaas. Or is she? I wrote, Briar is delusional. Okay? She knows this man is stalking her. She knows it. She sees him outside her window. And then she engages with him, and she's like, "I'm gonna say these ridiculous things out the window and get off my property, you stalker!" Like stupid shit. If someone is stalking you and you're in fear of your life, you go to the cops. She didn't do none of that. she didn't tell anyone, or she did tell people, but it was more so like a conversation. So if you were having a normal conversation with me about someone, I wouldn't think you were stalking them for real, because you're way too casual about it. And he was obsessed with her. Anyways, if you ask me, she encouraged him. She encouraged him to continue stalking her. She enjoyed it. She liked being his muse, as he would call her. He would break into her house and rearrange things. He put cameras in there to watch her. I don't understand how they even got to have sex. Where did that come from? Which is why I want to get into the topic of erotica. This was not a romance. This was erotica. You wanted to have sex. You wanted to write about sex. And you wanted it to be kink. I'm here for it. I am here for it. But please, for the love of God, be honest. This is not a romance. They don't have any conversations. You don't know anything about them. And then when they do have a conversation, it was, my mom had a guy that used to come to the house, and one time he tried to molest me, and my mom killed him. So this is why I am the way I am. I don't care. There was no build up to it. There was nothing. There was nothing. You're throwing in something to make it seem like it's okay for him to be this way because this is what he went through. But there was no emotion behind it. There was no feeling behind it. There was no actual lead up to it. It was just a truth bomb that you dropped to a woman that keeps telling you to stop stalking her. 2 stars. Next book. All right, so the next book I have is Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola, which is a romance. It's more like a second chance romance. I gave it 4.5 stars. So would I recommend it? Absolutely. 1,000%. So the summary is Kiki has to be face-to-face with her ex-boyfriend Malachi for their best friend's wedding. He's best friend with the groom. She's best friend with the bride. They all went to college together. Kiki and Malachi haven't seen each other in 3 years. And now they are best man, maid of honor. And how do you ignore the chemistry, the pull, the tug between the one that's for you? Loved it. Loved it. Ate it up. I love that I was able to step back into their world. I don't think you would need to read the first book in order to be able to follow in the second book. She definitely wrote them as standalones. So if you picked up Sweet Heat before you picked up Honey and Spice, it's not going to take away from the story, which I do appreciate. So with Malachi and Kiki, you know, they broke up and you're trying to figure out what it was. And I like that you got the build up and little flashbacks to the past of what was going on and how they got to the point of them breaking up. I enjoyed that. I like that writing. I loved that the characters, Babalola was able to maintain the characters at their core, that you saw the character growth as they, you know, progressed, because you got them in college. So they were like 18, 19, 20 at the time. And then you're seeing them years later at like 28. So you get to see them at the core because you know who they are if you've read the first book. And then you're seeing, she's expanding on that. You're seeing them grow. You're seeing what their life is like now as adults, what they thought it was going to be in college, where they are as adults. You're seeing their worlds and who they interact with and the life lessons that they've learned and how they are navigating through that. I love that she was able to expand on that. I love that there was a chemistry between the two characters, but it wasn't insta-lust because they already had that love. And so you're seeing them figure out what it is to be in a relationship and why it's not always smooth sailing, right? You're going to have your ebbs and flows in any relationship, and you get to see that and see how it took them some time to separate, delineate from the path, do what they need to do for themselves, and then get back to who they were, if that makes sense. I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic book. I would highly recommend anyone and everyone to read it. Her books are funny. She has really, really good comedic timing with her writing, and you're laughing with the characters. Sometimes you'll have authors write something and they'll say that everyone laughed, and you're reading it and you're not laughing, you're gonna laugh with the characters. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoyed the character growth. I enjoyed stepping back into their world. It was just a really, really good book. So that is Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola. The next book is going to be Direbound by Sable Sorenson, which is a romantasy. I gave this 3.5 stars. This was recommended to me by my sister Denise. Denise and I, well, all of our siblings, I'm one of 5. We have a book club that we do, and this was her pick. She was the one that picked this month, and she picked Direbound. There we go. And let me tell you about it. So the synopsis for Direbound is Marin hates the bonded. The bonded are the military. They bond with wolves, but she finds that she's having to enlist to save her sister who has been kidnapped. So she wants to enlist in the military to go to the front lines to fight against the vampires, right? And now she's in a combative, grueling training that essentially you can get killed at any moment, anytime, any day by anyone. Yeah. And even her instructor doesn't mind killing her. Stark is his name. I felt like this book was heavily influenced by Fourth Wing. I'm not knocking it. I enjoyed Fourth Wing. I thought Fourth Wing was fantastic. I was on Fourth Wing before the hype. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I was on Fourth Wing before the hype. Okay? But heavily inspired, let's use that word, inspired by Fourth Wing. However, with Fourth Wing, you understood the purpose of the dragons. I feel like in Direbound, there is no reason to have these wolves other than for these people to have magic. There's nothing there. And Marin is kind of, what's the word? Nagging. The girl is nagging. She whines a lot. She thinks that she knows best and she knows nothing. Okay? She knows nothing. She doesn't try to find the information. She doesn't ask the right questions. She doesn't go looking for the information. She will essentially have a thought in her mind, and that thought is fact, and therefore you should do it the way she says, because how dare you not want to do what she says? That's not enough, girl. You haven't fought anything. I'm sorry. Before she was bonded, before she joined the military, she used to fight in like a fighting pit, and that's how she would get money to be able to take care of her family. And so for that, she thinks she's hot shit. She has a chip on her shoulder, and I don't know. There was something missing. I understood the premise. I got it. I see what they were trying to do, but it's not going to make me rush into reading book 2, right? It is good enough to continue. I'm going to try book 2. If I DNF book 2, then it's done, because I know it's supposed to be a trilogy. But now I'm just kind of upset that I might be wasting money and going into book 2. I don't know. I gave it 3.5 stars. I don't know if I already said that, but it was okay. It was an okay book for me. Would I recommend it? Sure. If you're into romantasy, this might be right up your alley. I've kind of stepped away from romantasy because I feel like a lot of them are rinse and repeats. And I have no issue with you being inspired or influenced by someone else. But at the same time, it needs to make sense. And I understand that it's a romantasy, it's fantasy and romance. But it needs to make sense. Okay? All right. Let's go into the next book. All right. So the next book that I read was The Martian by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi. It was a total of 10 hours and 59 minutes. A total of 4.25 stars is what I give it. And would I recommend it? Yes, I would. So, Mark Watney and his team have evacuated Mars has to evacuate Mars when a dust storm appears on the planet. And shit goes awry and the team ends up leaving Mark Watney. Now, I will say the team did think he was dead. There was no way to get to him. He's left on Mars. he has to go and figure out how to survive on Mars by himself. The reason I read The Martian is because last year, 2025, my #1 book of 2025 was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And I was like, oh, let me go into his catalog and see what else he has. This was not as good as Project Hail Mary. And I don't want to compare his work, because his work is his work, and I still enjoyed it. I would still recommend it. However, Project Hail Mary just held me. Whereas this one was more the internal dialogue. That's what it is. The internal dialogue that Mark Watney has. I realized with Andy Weir, his characters are all witty and funny. I'm not going to take that from him. Both books had that. But with Mark Watney, it was just him. He literally had to carry the story by himself for a really long time before we got into him being able to communicate with people back on Earth, like with NASA and everything else, and realizing that he was alive and all that good stuff. So for me, that part dragged a little bit because it was a lot. It was a lot to be in someone's mind and there is no one else. And with Project Hail Mary, again, he had that as well. But he has company, right? So this, to me, his writing format is kind of the same. This one, it just dragged a little bit, and that's fine for the most part. So I actually went and bought the movie, The Martian, just to see if they did it well enough, because I remember watching it and really enjoying it. But I literally only watched it once, so I wanted to, rewatch it and see. So I bought it right after I finished listening to this book, watched the movie, and this is one of the few times that I will say the movie was better than the book. One of the few times. But also, this was 10 hours and 59 minutes, so 11 hours, whereas the movie is only 2.5 hours. It was pretty condensed, obviously, but you get all of that. The tediousness of having to read that he is planting the potatoes and how he plants the potatoes and what goes into it and how it works. Like, you get the science behind it, whereas in the movie you get the science behind it, but it's a lot quicker because you're watching it. It's being fed to you. You're getting everything else in the book. And this is one of the few times where I didn't need all of that. So I will say the movie was better. However, again, the book ending was better than the movie. I think they should have stuck to the book's ending instead of doing what they did in the movie. I didn't feel like that was good enough. I feel like the book ending was way more reasonable and plausible than what they did in the movie. But that's just me. And there we have it, you guys. The Martian by Andy Weir. All right, so moving on to our next book is When He's Not There by Renee, which is a romance, 109 pages. So some of these books, you guys, I'm going to be honest with you, Black Romance Book Festival, well, at the release of this video would have been last weekend when I'm recording it. This is Black Romance Book Festival is going on. Today's May 30th, 31st, whatever. It's going on now. So Black Romance Book Festival would have been last year, and I was trying to, on Storygraph, there is a challenge to read the authors that are attending the Black Romance Book Festival. She is one of the authors that would be there. I was trying to work through that list, but there were 219 authors. I think I read like 20. It's a lot. Okay. I did what I did. 109 pages. 2 stars. Would I recommend this book? No. Okay. Synopsis. Truce and Sinai have a lot of chemistry, and Truce doesn't mind going off. Truce doesn't mind going after what he wants, even if Sinai is already in a relationship. So let the shenanigans begin. Also, my summaries are my summaries. I'm just giving you a brief synopsis of how I interpreted the book. Okay? Let me tell you why I had an issue with this book and why it gave me 2 stars. Why I gave it 2 stars. Again, we're going back into the whole, it's not a romance, it's an erotica. There's nothing wrong with it being an erotica, but I'm not in the mindset of an erotica. So when you tell me it's a romance, I'm looking for romance. So when all they do is hunch, and you're giving me these men that are clearly not good enough. Sanai's in a relationship. She's with a guy. He doesn't want to do anything. Basically, he doesn't support her. He doesn't value her. He doesn't treat her well. He doesn't buy her flowers because she likes flowers. He doesn't, you know, he's not that guy. And then here comes Truce doing all the things. Of course, he's the better choice. It's an obvious better choice. What are we talking about right now? It's not even, there's no reason for you to be with the man that you're with. So when you sit there and I'm sure the author was trying to make it seem like she's being loved correctly, which she was being loved correctly. But at the same time, is it love though? Because all you're doing is buying me things and fucking the shit out of me. It's not love. There's no emotion. Truce was not assertive, like, at all. He was aggressive. He was rude. He was disrespectful. He was, let me look at my notes. Rude and disrespectful. That's what I wrote. And I wrote that I'm sure the author thought Sanai was like a victim in her situation, and Truce was like this suave debonair type of guy that came in and swooped in and let me show you what a real man is. But they both aggravated me. That's what I wrote. Yeah. No character development, no declarations of love, no dialogues between them to even show any type of chemistry or understanding. It was just a no for me. Not my cup of tea. Nothing. It was just, we have a chemistry. We should be together. I do all the things that you want. What about him? I don't think my personal humble opinion, I don't think a romance should be heavenly one-sided, where it's just the woman being taken care of. And while I love for a woman to be taken care of, I love that for us. The man is also in the relationship. There are two parties in the relationship. I think you should be showing both sides, and he doesn't have to have a POV. I'm okay with it just being from the woman's point of view, but I think you should be showing both sides and show how she's able to do the things that he needs and he wants so that he can feel loved, and vice versa. I don't think that it should all be about her and she gets the flowers and he takes her on these lavish trips and he buys her all the things. Okay. It's not enough. That's just me. Next book. All right, so the next book we're going into is Act Like You Mean It by Shae Sanders. This was a romance, 179 pages. I gave it 4.5 stars. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to say with Shae Sanders, she's another author that is attending the Black Romance Book Festival. I'm going to link their Instagram page, by the way, so that you guys can see it if you want. I do believe that the tickets go on sale in August of this year for next year's book fest. But Shae Sanders was an author that I read as well. So the synopsis to this is August Chambers has isolated himself from his Black female fans by only dating white women. And so you enter in Xandra Nicole for a PR relationship, and then they have to figure out, are we pretending or is this real? I thought it was a really good book. I thought it was cute. I loved it. I ate it up. 179 pages. It's not that far. I love that she did not focus solely on sexual chemistry. There were conversations being had between their families, how they were raised, what their interests were, what they were looking for, what they wanted to do with their life, what they wanted from their partner. All of those conversations matter. That to me is a romance. Okay, thank you so much. Let's go on to my next book. Next book, definitely not a thing. Christina C. Jones. Again, this is another romance. It was a total of 5 hours and 15 minutes. This was an audiobook for me. I gave it 4.75 stars. Would I recommend this book? Again, yes. She is another author attending the Black Romance Book Festival. That attended, I should say, because it'll be in the past when you see this. Okay. I kept seeing this book on my Bookstagram all over the place. Everybody raved about it, so I decided why not give it a shot. My brief synopsis summary of the book. Amelia is going through a hard time, and here is Calvin being cocky, annoying, and her next door neighbor. Their back and forth banter might put them into a thing, but it's definitely not a real thing, right? So Amelia is pretty much healing. She went through a breakup. She's moving into her apartment. And as she's moving in, Calvin is there. He asks her if she needs help. And he is cocky and loud and, hey girl, you see me standing here. You know you need some help. I liked him. I thought he was funny. I thought he was super funny. Once you got over the cockiness, I thought he was funny. And I love that they were both able to recognize that they were both going through something and help each other. Because the very first meeting wasn't the best meeting, right? Your first impression, it wasn't the best. He offered her help and she wasn't going for it. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. I thought it was really good. The only reason it wasn't a 5-star read for me, honestly, is because I wanted more. I felt like this could have been more, I don't want to say fleshed out, but just longer. We could have went into more detail about their relationship and all of the things. But for it to be such a short read, again, it was only 5 hours, 15 minutes if you're listening to it. If you're going on a trip and you're taking a drive, you can listen to this book and be done by the time you get to where you gotta go. I thought this was good. I thought it was really good. It was funny. The banter was great. The chemistry was awesome. I enjoyed them understanding one another and where they're coming from, where they're going, what their goals were. Love that. That to me is, again, I said it last time, I'm gonna say it again. That to me shows the romance, because I think you having the feeling is not enough. There needs to be a reason for the feeling. It needs to make sense. And Christina C. Jones did that. So there we have it, you guys. Definitely Not a Thing by Christina C. Jones. All right, we are coming to the end. Yeah, I think we have 4 books. Okay, all right. We have Olympus, Volume 1 by Rachel Smith. This is a romance graphic novel. I gave it 4.75 stars. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Yes, I see why people love this series. In all honesty, the synopsis for this book is just basically, this is a retelling of Hades and Persephone. It's a retelling. So I wrote, this was super cute and easily digestible, which it was, because it's a graphic novel, comic book for adults. Okay, yeah. I love the banter. I love the dialogues. The banter is what gets me. If you can have good banter and dialogues in the book, that's what gets me 9 times out of 10. I love that, because then I become invested in what you're saying and what you're doing. When you have someone that just is talking just to talk because they know words, shut up. This was super cute. I loved it. I laughed at some parts. I felt a certain way at a certain part that happened between Persephone and, what's his name? Eros. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you know Greek mythology, you know what I'm talking about. I really like the way that Rachel Smith was able to go ahead and modernize this story. Modernize the story and also express how these things have been going on for quite some time and it's always been overlooked. And now when she wrote it, because I remember there was an issue with, again, the scene that happened between Persephone and Eros, people felt a certain type of way, as if she was diminishing or destroying the Greek mythology. And I was like, well, that these stories did happen during that time and no one said anything because women weren't protected, right? And I just felt like she was able to address that in a way, and even to get into Persephone's mind of how she handled it and where she went from there. I personally thought that was a really good take on it. I like that it wasn't so heavy, but at the same time there was enough heaviness for you to understand what was happening and why it mattered. I enjoyed that. So kudos to you, Miss Rachel Smythe. That was Lore Olympus. And then we have Frostbound by Smardline S, which is a romance. It's 108 pages. I actually got this book from when I went to the independent bookstore, and she was there because I had purchased the book Written on Ice from her. She gave me this book. It was a prequel. It's not on Kindle Unlimited or anywhere else. So I'm like one of the few people that actually got the book, and I appreciate that. It's literally the prequel to Written on Ice. I love this. I gave this 5 stars. I ate this book up. I read it again. It's 108 pages, so I read it in a day. But 5 stars. I loved experiencing their story from the genesis of it all, and then going into Written in Ice. I know Written on Ice is the book that she initially released, and then she went back and did Frostbound to kind of tell their story. And I see why she did it that way. But if I'm being honest, there isn't much I can tell you about it, because I'm going to tell you about Frostbound. I mean, about Written on Ice, which is her next book, which is a dark academia romance. I gave that 3.75 stars. That was only 282 pages. Would I recommend it? Yes. Yes, I would. Let me tell you why. I gave it 3.75 stars, but let me give you the synopsis first. So the synopsis of the book is Luna Del Sol. She is the figure skater. She's the FMC. And then you have Zayden Aldenhurst, who is a hockey player. He's the male. He's the MMC. And they attend an elite university where they are supposed to hate one another. I don't know what that's about, but apparently, you know, I guess because hockey would be the bigger sport over ice skating, figure skating. I don't know. Is it figure skating, ice skating? That. I don't know. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I legitimately don't know. You can correct me in the comments. But then they're both receiving anonymous messages that push them together and takes them on a journey, and a mystery unfolds, right? Okay. Again, I love the prequel. I loved the genesis of it all. I thought it was super cute. And then I understood why in the book he mentions she doesn't even remember me. And I was like, that's so weird. Why would she? Where did y'all meet before, right? The prequel tells you where they met before. And it also lets you know why no one else knew they met before. The prequel was excellent. Chef's kiss. That is how you introduce a story. She did that. Fantastic. Loved it. Ate it up. Great. This book dragged. Because, again, we're back to, this is a romance. And then we had 7 chapters of them hunching. They don't even like one another. There's just an undeniable chemistry and bond. And again, I'm going to say, this is why I like that I read the prequel first, because you can see why that was. He, more so, has a reason for why he's so attracted to her and wants to be with her. She does not. She just, there's a pull towards him, there's an attraction there, but you don't know anything about why that is. And I felt like that kind of took away from the story. But I'm going to go ahead and continue with it. The cliffhanger at the end of this book, I want to see what's going to happen. I'm not going to lie. I want to see what's going to happen. But there's definitely a darker academia story. They're at the school. There is a mystery going on. They have to figure it out. And in the midst of them figuring it out, there is a lot of sexual tension and them trying to navigate the high stakes of the school, because a lot of people that attend this elite university end up going to, you know, the hockey league. They go to the Olympics. They go to they do big things. They're not a small fry. So for you to get in, you have to have that talent. So they're navigating that as well. But the ending is what got me. That's how she sucked me back in. This is how she ended up at a 3.75. Book is available on Kindle Unlimited, by the way. Just saying. Okay. All right. Let's go to our next book, which is going to be our final book of the month, which is Sweatpants Season by Danielle Allen. Again, this is an author that is attending or did attend last week Black Romance Book Festival. This is a romance, 278 pages. I gave this 2.75 stars. Would I recommend this book? No. The synopsis. Aquila is a feminist and hates women being objectified, but when she sees Carlos in his gray sweatpants, and he has a print, and then he also has intelligence and wit and banter, and he has a dream, and he may be a good guy, but it's the print that got you. I understood the premise. So Aquila meets Carlos. They hit it off. They're really good. Aquila is a freelance journalist, and so she did this post about being single and dating while being single, and they live in somewhere called Richland. I don't know if this is a real place, but it should be in DC area. And she talks about this podcast that she heard of, and on the podcast, these men are basically objectifying women. Okay, if you want it, you go get it. If she tells you no, she doesn't really mean it. That type of thing. And she uses them as a reference of why the men are acting the way they do while she's out dating and trying to find her person. And so then she meets Carlos. And Carlos, while he's different, isn't so different. Or he allows the tomfoolery to continue even though he knows better. So you're complicit in a way, and it's kind of a turnoff for her. And I understood that. I'm with you on that. My note says, I don't care for characters that have such a high moral standard but lack self-awareness. While he's complicit and you don't want to be a part of that, you don't want to date someone that isn't going to speak up and that perpetuates this standard of what a woman should be and how they should act and how grateful they should be for men. She gives nothing. I'm sorry. She gives nothing. Like, it's very much you need to stop being this way if you want to be with me type of deal. And I just feel like you just said that he's complicit and it goes against what you want. You're not trying to change him, or I hate saying change, but you're not trying to help him be a better person. You want him to stop doing these things so that you can have him. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very, like, I would prefer him to do that on his own than to do that to be with me. That's what I got from it. I know other people might see it differently. I would love someone to read this book and then come back and tell me if I saw it wrong, but that's what I got. It was very much you need to do this in order to be with me, even though I don't like that you do this. If you don't like that, if this is a standard if this is a hill that you are willing to die on, why are you trying to change him into being this good guy that could be for you? Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining that right. I just felt like she should be the end all be all for him, but she was not willing to compromise on anything, like, at all. And I understand there were growing pains. I understand that they were young because she's like 25, he's like 26. There was something about her specifically, and I wish I could elaborate more, but it was something about her specifically that grinded my gears. She was kind of judgmental. Just I know better, so I do better. And I'm just sitting here like, do you know better? So are you going to do better? I don't know. And then the ending, I didn't like. It felt super rushed. I felt like I'm back to, again, stating men should be appreciated too. It was very much a me situation. You need to treat me this way so that I can be happy and we can be together. I don't know. It was very one-sided. That's what that's how I felt. If someone read this book, please drop down in the comments. Let me know if you read this book or if you feel you understand what I'm saying. Like, I just felt like, nah, girl, that wasn't for me. And then I reread 3 books this month as well. So, I'm not going to go into much detail about the books that I reread, but sometimes if I'm in a reading slump, or if I want to read but I don't feel like any of the books, because I'll start books and then I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for this right now. Sometimes I just need to go back to Old Faithful and read something that I know I'll enjoy. So the 3 books that I reread this month were Saving Sunflower by Rae Lyse, The Endgame by Rae Lyse, and then Lucid Dreams by Lady Nesha. Both of these authors also attended the Black Romance Book Festival. Excuse me. These books I absolutely enjoy every single time, especially Saving Sunflower. My best friend, I just finally convinced her to read Saving Sunflower. She was eating that book up, and yeah. But yeah, those are 3 books that I reread this month that factored into my pages count and all of that. So you guys, those are the books that I read this month. I hope I was able to put some books on your radar that you might have wanted to read. Let me know if you had any books that stood out to you in the month of May. Let me know what your favorite book was. Yeah, let me know what your favorite book was. And as always, you guys, I appreciate you so much for watching. Please, again, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I release a new video. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.